Welcome to the channel where we're always doing some nutty, crazy stuff. Okay, after this video, guys, some of you may think I've just completely lost my mind, but bear with me here, you're gonna like this. So sometimes when I'm sitting around and I'm trying to think of the next video to do, I come up with some cockamamie stuff. It's just kind of out of left field. This video just happens to be one of them. So while prepping one of my models for the next video, I kept getting these little swirly lines and stuff. So I come up with a way to use photopolymer resin spraying through an airbrush to fix your layer lines and your swirl marks. Why, you ask? Well, why not? First off. Second off, I don't know about you, but I hate sanding. I know we have to do it. It's part of the model building process, but there's nothing more frustrating than when you're sanding and you sand with too big of a grit and it digs into your models and you have to go back, sand, primer, repeat, sand, primer, repeat. It's annoying. So I was experimenting with this whole project and thinking that if I could airbrush resin onto swirl marks, would it smooth them out enough where I wouldn't have to sand? And the answer is yes. So of course we've used brushes to do this. It does leave some brush strokes behind. My thought process is with using the airbrush, you can actually build up layer by layer without losing a lot of detail, without any types of brush stroke lines or anything like that in it. So in theory this will work, but I'm not quite sure. We're gonna have to try it. Oh, but if this works, make sure that you have proper ventilation, make sure that you are wearing a respirator, make sure that you are wearing glass safety goggles or glasses, and make sure you are wearing gloves. Okay, so let's see what I come up with. So as you can see, there are several swirl marks throughout the back of this cape. And what I'm gonna try is, I'm gonna try something, I don't know if it's ever been done before, but I'm nutty enough to try it. So this right here you would have to sand this down and primer it and cover it with primer, and but I'm going to eliminate all that. Hopefully we're going to try this and see if it works. So you all know what this is right here. This is an airbrush. What I'm about to try here is if you look inside there, looks like gray paint, but it's not gray paint. This is actually photopolymer resin. I actually thinned a little bit of it down with some denatured alcohol, just enough to pass it through an airbrush. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take this cape here that has a bunch of those swirl marks in there, and you can see it. I'm gonna do it in real time. But I'm going to attempt to airbrush this and fill those swirls and cure it and see if that will actually make it smooth again. So let's see if this works. Guys, if this works, this would be great. If not, then I'll just be a big nutbag, I guess. I don't know. So here we go. All right, so it did cover it. I did get the resin through the airbrush, and it looks like a lot of those swirl marks are gone. Now, I'm not gonna do this too thick. I think that it would be good to try and do it in thin coats. So let's go cure it now and see what we come up with. Hey, and don't forget, when you try this, make sure you are doing it in a well-ventilated area. Make sure that you are wearing eye protection, gloves. Make sure that you are wearing a respirator during this process, and do not expose it to UV light. And do not put this resin back into your 3D printer since you just thinned it out with alcohol. There's no telling what will happen to it. So just make sure that you use small batches at a time, and whatever you don't use, make sure you dispose of it properly. All right, so here we are. I got my UV light here, and I'm basically just going to run that under there for just a little bit, and make sure you wear eye protection when using these big UV lights. Okay, and let's see. All right, it does have that typical greasy feeling like if you put resin on there, but it is dry, guys, and that is smooth. Now, it took out the majority of the lines. It did not take away from any of the detail. And we want to put another coat of this on there. So let's go do another coat real quick. Let's see, I'm excited now. Let's go do another coat real quick and see if we can cover up the rest of this. All right, guys, this is coat number 2 here. On this right here, this is coat number 2. And this thing has a lot of swirl lines on it. So I'm going to go through, I'm just going to recoat the whole thing. Oh, wow. All right, you guys are seeing this real time, this no time lapse or anything. All those swirls are gone. Yeah, except for that one because I didn't paint it or spray it. Yeah, that is all gone, guys, and that is an even finish all through that. It's not lumpy. There's no streaks from like when you use a brush to do this. There's no sanding involved. Yeah, so let's go cure this one now, and we're gonna clean it next and see how it cleans. All right, here we are back again and got our UV light. We're gonna run this under the UV light. And it usually only takes just a few seconds, but I'm just gonna leave it on just a little bit longer, just to see what kind of difference we get, if it makes any difference actually. All right. Oh wow. Except for that little bit of that residue left behind, it is dry. There's no resin on my hands. It's just that little residue that the resin leaves behind once it's cured, because it has to be cleaned. But look at that, guys. There is no swirls in there at all. Isn't that amazing? All right, so the next step is let's go clean this and see what kind of finish we get on it. All right, so I have my little tub of denatured alcohol here that I usually use for bigger prints that won't fit in the cleaning station. So I'm just going to basically clean this off. I'm going to use my toothbrush to get a good scrubbing, because I want to see if this stuff comes off any, if it has any adverse effect on it, and see if it still has that greasy feeling once it's all dry. All right. So it's out. Let's just kind of give it a little thorough wipe down here in the front. Okay, it's still shiny. And I'm wearing gloves here because, again, we are working with alcohol. If you work with alcohol, make sure you wear gloves and you don't burn your skin or irritate it or anything like that, for the love of Pete. All right. So, all right, it's dry. You hear that? I know what that sounds like, but there's no greasy feeling, guys. That is primerable right there, just like it is. No sanding or anything. Man, that is so cool. Okay, so we've seen how it works on resin prints. Now I've got this FDM print right here, and you can really tell there is a ton of swirls and print lines and all kinds of stuff on here. Now, I know a lot of people want to sand all of this stuff down, but what if you don't have to get into these cracks and crevices as much anymore if it is already smooth. I mean, it's okay to sand all this down, but that's a lot of work, you know, to sand that thing down and put like 5 coats of primer on it. It just doesn't make sense to do that. So let's see what it does here for FDM prints. Okay, I've still got some resin in here, and we're going to hit this one spot right here. Now I know with FDM I'm gonna have to go pretty thick, or thicker. But if you see that, see the one on the bottom? See the really bad swirls? This one up here is not as bad. So I'm guessing that if you do this in layers, it will help cover all that up. All right. So there we have that. Now, again, let's go cure it. So here we are with our FDM piece, and we're going to run this under the UV light. And my guess is it's still going to have the same effect as the resin piece. It's still going to cure okay, and it's still going to have that little greasy feeling until we actually wipe it off. Yeah, look at that. That is smooth. There's that little greasy feeling on there. All right, so I'm going to clean this. Basically just got a wet paper towel. I dipped it in the denatured alcohol, and I'm going to clean it that way because I'm not going to dip this whole thing into there. And now let me get something to dry it off with. I'm sorry guys, you're seeing this all live here. I don't like doing time lapses on stuff like this. All right, so let's dry it off. Yeah, and there's no grease. There's no greasy feeling. It is squeaky clean, literally. So I went ahead and I sprayed this lower section down here, cured it and cleaned it. And while that's just one coat, and if you remember earlier, the swirl marks that were in there, they're already halfway gone. I mean, you can add another coat or two to this, and it is squeaky clean. There's no brush marks or anything like that. It's just flat. And what we're going to do next is I'm just going to test primer this, and we're going to do this live here and see what kind of swirl marks are left onto there. So remember, when you're primering, always wear a respirator. Always do this in a well ventilated area. So that's just one coat of primer. And look, it covers all of that, or darn near all of it. So I know a lot of you guys are probably gonna go, oh man, he just ruined a good airbrush. Well, A, that's why I used an old airbrush. This is a $30 airbrush. And B, I did not ruin it. So I'm gonna take some of the denatured alcohol that I had and clean this brush out and make sure it's all out of here. But well, there you go guys. So there's still a lot of experimenting I need to do with this. So if you like the video, hit that like button for me, and also consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to watch my other video with a 1K giveaway. We're going to give away one of these pieces behind me to one of my subscribers once we reach 1,000, and we're a little over halfway there right now, so it won't be too much longer, hopefully. So until the next video, everybody, make sure you stay safe, keep creating, and we'll see ya. So I've never heard of anybody else doing this, so I guess I don't know if I'm the first, or that just means I'm just that much crazier. Only on here on the Creative Collector will we'll mess something of our own up so you don't have to.